The incredible thing is that Vivint now connects you to everything in your life, from doorbells, door locks, cameras, lighting, thermostats, garage doors, data storage, and a whole lot more, all from your smartphone.
vidiq.com.
Magic Links provides tools for social commerce. So anyone on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter who has a channel can use Magic Links to earn extra income for their channel.
Are you ready?
Yep. Got it.
Hey everybody, how you doing? You're surviving. How great is this? How many people have met 10 people yet? Nice. Look around the room if you haven't met 10 people, because I just talked to someone who came here last year and she said the last 2 years she didn't meet anybody. This year, she went out and met people, and guess who she happened to be talking to someone? She has a very small channel, and she, from meeting someone out in that lobby, got a branding deal. Just saying. Just saying. She's met 14 people. Just saying. Okay. All right, so Matthew Faraci spent his career as a political strategist who has served on more than 35 campaigns and, of course, on Capitol Hill. He's had leadership roles at 3 DC public policy groups and was appointed by President George W. Bush to serve as spokesperson at the U.S. Department of Labor. He's used to getting politicians published in the media, and he is all about getting you found. He has an entertainment marketing agency, and they specialize in powerful values audience. He's a serial innovator, and his career has been delivering for clients by combining the very latest tactics and proven time-tested methods to achieve success. If you want to get covered and you want to get found out, you want to listen to this presentation. Give it up for Matthew Faraci.
Hi, everybody. So, yeah, I'm a recovering politico, and I got out at just the right time. That is not a political statement. It's just keeps getting uglier and uglier. Okay. Is my feedback driving people crazy? It's driving me crazy. We good up there? Okay. I'll just talk and let them fix the mic, I guess. We could kill this projector because I don't have anything to put on it. That's cool. Okay, guys, so presumably some of you are here because you're either not satisfied with the press coverage that you're getting, or you'd like to get press coverage. Did I just pretty much sum up everybody in here? Okay. So one of the things I like to ask people, and just see how quickly you catch this, is a new product rolls out. And what's one of the first, like one of our clients is Squatty Potty is rolling out a new video next week. We work with Harmon Brothers. You guys ever heard of Harmon Brothers? Yeah. Only the greatest ad makers on planet Earth, in my humble opinion. So if you look at the bottom of a website like Squatty Potty, what's the first thing a lot of people put on the bottom to show you that they're legit? Huh? Okay, we're almost there. Wait, Austin? Yeah, major press, right? You put press logos on the bottom of your website to show people you've been covered. Why? Yeah, just speak up. Yeah, it's street cred, right? I mean, if you've been covered by the Washington Post or the New York Times, or I'm just Mashable, throw any masthead up there, BuzzFeed, I don't care who it is. If you've been covered by one of those guys, you're legit. Let me tell you my favorite story it's a favorite recent story that shows the power of that. I had a friend tell me about Warby Parker. Anybody familiar with Warby Parker? They make glasses? Okay. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool, but it sounds kind of sketch, so I'll skip it. And then I was driving on Sunset Boulevard. I live here in LA, and I saw that they have a store in the Standard in the hotel. So I pulled in, walked into the store. I was still not convinced. Now remember, I do this for a living, okay? Then I read an article, I think it was in Inc., and it was about how Warby Parker was revolutionizing the eyeglass industry, and it was how they were innovating, and I was so impressed by what I read. Granted, knowing this, okay, like I know this, I do this is what I do, that I went out and placed an order, right? So a lot of times people ask me like, hey, should we put an ad in this magazine or on this website? And I always tell them, why? Why would you do that if you can be mentioned in an article? Because really what an article is it's advertising, but it's better than advertising, right? Because by that publication covering you, there's an implicit endorsement of what you're doing, right? Now, some people might talk. Negative press is a whole nother thing. Although I actually think that can work in your favor as well. And I've had a lot of experience doing like crisis work, and you know, when crisis work goes bad, so we've seen a couple influencers who've gotten involved in some stuff, and one influencer last year got involved in one. And one of the things that pained me was reading about the shellacking they were taking in the press, and they were doing nothing to respond to it, right? And so if you don't push back against what's being said about you, what happens? Yeah, people just believe it. And the other thing is, I cannot begin to tell you guys how much stuff is printed that is not accurate. It's unbelievable. I'll hear news stories on, let's say, NPR or something like that, and I may happen to know about the particular issue, and I'll just look at my wife and laugh and go, wow. I'll know the PR guy behind it, and I'll go, wow, I can't believe they actually bought that and reported that as news. So people are cynical about the media, but I actually think it is an amazingly powerful tool. And again, I want you to suspend, I'm giving you a caveat. I want you to suspend the politics behind the statement and look at the reality of it, okay? Barack Obama got elected twice using two things. First of all, excellent media coverage, right? And second, he had a brilliantly organized campaign. I mean, really, like the stuff they were doing with data and organizing is the stuff of legend, and it really hasn't been duplicated yet. Donald Trump had almost no organization, like what we would have called in politics a ground game, and pretty much got elected because he's a genius at media coverage. Like a genius, throwing something out there and getting the press to cover what he's talking about. I've almost never seen anybody who's that good. He's that good, right? And so again, I'm saying that to show you that's the power of getting media coverage, because you can get advertising, essentially, because most of you guys are not in politics, and you're saying, why am I using that analogy? I'm using that analogy because essentially at the end of the day, if you're a creator, you're in entertainment, and entertainment is the same thing. You're trying to get a group of people who you think will be interested in what you have. It's got to be a core group. You're trying to get a group of people who you think will be interested in what you have to watch your channel. Is that accurate for almost everybody in here? Or watch your content somewhere, right? So it's the same thing, and you're asking them to do it at a certain time, on a certain day. You know, the circumstances are slightly different, but the outcome is the same. You're trying to get people to take an action, and that action is to pay attention to what you're doing. Like, that's the ultimate goal, right? So, rather than me sitting here and talking and telling you all my tips, what I find is most helpful for people is that people have case studies or legitimate things that you're grappling with right now, and I would love to open it up for questions right now, because what happens is somebody's going to ask me a question, and that's going to be super relevant to everybody else in the room, so for instance, this gentleman right here was telling me about your hot rod business. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so me and my two best friends, we own a custom hot rod shop. We build hot rods from the frame up, so Corvettes and Mustangs and Model A's and Model T's. We build cars that are $50,000, and we built an $800,000 car. So we are looking to get the word out because advertising is just so specific. But people that like hot rods, they really like hot rods. And there's, you know, it's exciting because we just sold a car to, I can't even think of,
John Lester.
Yeah, John Lester, sorry. Been up all night. So
He's
John
with
Lester.
the Cubs. He should have stayed with the Red Sox. That's
Yeah,
a
okay,
whole
good.
other issue.
So we built a car for him.
Sorry, Cubs fans.
Exactly. Delivered it at
stink.
Wrigley Field, and so that was cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's where do you think we question as, you know, why would anybody care what we're doing? And it's interesting. You want people to care, but why would they? So we're just looking for some ways on that we can get the media excited about it, because in Arizona, in Fountain Hills, we have 28 active builds that people have no idea what we're building. We're building some really super cool cars.
So most of you that are creators, you can already see where this could go in terms of a series, a show. We've already seen demonstrated success with content like this. So I'll leave that to people like Daryl, and let's leave that to Daryl. But putting that aside, so there's a couple of places. You know, getting your hot rod business mentioned, first of all, in like hobbyist magazines, where people look at that kind of stuff. It's funny. What's that saying? There's riches in the niches, right? So getting mentioned in those magazines, people may go, oh, that's just a magazine for hobbyists. Yeah, but people are reading that particular magazine because that's their passion. So an article or a spread about what you guys are doing, that's hugely beneficial to you, right? And then your demographic, I'm guessing, is a little bit higher end in terms of who's able to afford. Am I right? Like who's able to?
Paint jobs start around $32,000. So yeah, just for paint job.
Right.
So builds could be anywhere between 50, 80, 100,000, 200,000.
Right. So then you can get out of the hobby space and you can just look at those kind of what I call lifestyles of the rich and famous outlets, and get a couple articles placed about that. Now, if it were easy, you could just make a phone call and do it. It's not easy, and this is the other thing I'd like to share with everybody. Do not, this is like my number one rule, dear God, do not try to do your own PR. It will not go well, okay? For example, everybody thinks they can write a press release, right? Let me back up. A lot of people, do you guys believe the press release is dead? Because you hear that a lot. Is the press release dead? How many? Okay. The poorly written press release is dead, because if you write a press release that's not compelling, nobody's going to pay attention. It's not going to get you any coverage. I subscribe to and receive hundreds of press releases a day just because I want to see what people are writing. And I would say that 97% of them are not good. Because the mistake that people make with press releases is, instead of, what they do is they say, hey, I want to tell you what I'm doing, right? Now, let me give you an example. Imagine we're all at a party together and you guys are having a group conversation about Snapchat. And somebody walks into the conversation and they're like, hey, let me tell you about my YouTube channel. that's going to be awkward in the conversation, right? Everybody's going to be like, wait, we're talking about Snapchat. Where did this come from? That is the press release analogy of doing that. And yet, people do that. Hey, look at what we're doing. Well, wait a minute. Step back a second and ask yourself this question. Getting press is kind of like surfing. So you're looking at the waves, and you're looking at, there's sort of two situations. There's being able to glom onto a story, and there's no shame in that. That's what most people, that's how you get there. And then there's being the story. When you are actually at the level where you become the story, that's a whole nother level. And we work with some people who, when they make an announcement, they are the story, and the press wants to know like what they're doing. That's an amazing place to be. That's a place to aspire to, but I don't want you to feel like you have to start there, right? But back to you, like, do not do your own PR. First of all, there's a way that, and this has been hard for me to explain. There's a way when I get an email that I know it's a real reporter, and as a former journalist, I guess that's how there's a sense, just like you probably know somebody who's legit in the car business or in that particular business that you're in, and you know when somebody has no experience in it by the language that they're using. So when you're pitching reporters, and also when they're getting your press release and your pitch and your other materials, there's kind of a language that's spoken. And so if it was just easy as getting a couple articles placed, everybody could do it. It's really hard. Just like Daryl talks about planning out your campaign, let me go back to what we used to do in politics. So what we do is we'd have a campaign strategy, and the candidate was our product, just like you are the candidate, you're the product, right? And we would map it all out, and everything that we did was designed to see what kind of press could we get around it, and we had it all planned out and mapped out and strategized out, and we knew, so we had like a lot of it planned, and then there was, unplanned things that we had what we call rapid response that we would respond to, but it's the same kind of thing. So I'll give you an example. Back in the day, I worked with a nonprofit, and they had, at the time, they wanted to make young people, 18 to 29-year-olds, have a certain perspective on a political issue, right? And I asked them, okay, like, where do you want to go with this? And they said, we want them to go from here to here to here. And over a 2-year period of time, we watched the media change its narrative from here to by the election came, the entire media narrative changed where we had wanted it to be. Well, that was just hammering that particular issue day after day after day after day after day for years, and basically working with every reporter that covered it until we had gotten to the point where the perception had shifted, right? So people that do this, they're doing it for a long haul, and that's the other thing I wanted to say is there's a temptation to go for kind of the quick publicity. The people that you see doing it successfully, they're doing it strategically. So they're doing it like one after another, after another, after another, and they're trying to keep like a constant drumbeat of attention going. What most companies or brands or creators do that's a mistake is they get excited about like one particular thing that they're doing, and what they do is they build all the press up for this, and then they drop it. And they go through this gulf where there's no media coverage for a while, and then they try to spike it again. You don't want that. What you want is more like this, and then like a constant drumbeat of staying in the press, staying in the press, staying in the press. Let me give you another example. I had a client once who I was positioning as an expert on like the box office returns. And it took about 6 months, and finally it got to the point where Variety and The Hollywood Reporter and some of the other trade pubs, when a certain kind of movie came out, they would call us and say, hey, we want to know what he thinks about how we did this week and all that kind of stuff. And then that client went through a process where they just decided they didn't want to do it. And I said, look, that's fine, but like I'm telling you right now, you're going to lose this. And they lost it to somebody else. Why? Because a reporter has kind of, if you think of picture like an old school Rolodex, they've got something at their desk, and they're like, oh, like my passion is family-friendly content. That's what I care about, right? So there's a bunch of reporters that call me when there's some kind of family-friendly content story. And they think of you as like, oh, that's my family-friendly content guy. That's my car guy. That's this guy has a YouTube channel guy. And they pick up the phone and they call you because you fit into that bucket. They need an expert for a story. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Does anybody have like is anybody here like a creator who has a channel, who has a question? Because I want to make it kind of relevant to almost everybody in the room. Anybody got a question like that? Yes, sir.
I have a YouTube channel.
Yep, okay.
How do I get my channel into the press? Because it's like I've never even thought about it. I just
What's your elevator pitch? What's your channel in one sentence, 2 sentences?
we teach people how to start business.
You teach people how to start businesses. That's cool. I like that. Okay, that's cool. You have a book?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I like that too. Everybody has a book, but a book is also street cred, right? Okay, so one of the interesting things is, so let's look at a couple of the narratives that are going on right now. So the media is fascinated with startups. They're fascinated with like creators and on these different channels. They're still trying to figure out how to cover it. They're fascinated by Netflix and Amazon and Facebook Watch spending all this money, right? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to look at what are the things that are being talked about, how do you fit into that? So you have a YouTube channel and you teach people how to start businesses. Do you have any success stories?
You know, it's kind of funny. My most successful clients, I can't talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a guy who took him from 30,000 a month to 100,000 a month.
Okay, can you talk about that without mentioning him?
Yeah, I could.
So, because what you want to start thinking about yourself is, there's this old saying, you can't see the label from inside the jar, right? So, first of all, it's very helpful to talk to friends about how they perceive you and your channel, and ask them like, or even total strangers if you can get them to, hey, watch my channel and tell me what you think, because they'll tell you how they see your package. And you want to see yourself as a brand and not just as a channel. So then when you're looking at, you help people start businesses, start looking at what's being written about. We're having microphone issues today. Maybe I'll move over here, or I won't move. What's being written about in Inc. magazine? What's being written about in some of the other outlets that cover business or startups? Entrepreneur, right? There's a whole bunch of outlets that cover that. What are they writing about, and what do you offer that's unique, new, or different in that marketplace? And that will start helping you to develop what your narrative is. And then you do need to find a PR expert. Now, I can also talk to you guys, if you want, about probably your next natural question, which is, what should you be looking for in a PR expert? Anybody curious about that? Yes. Okay. See Davey nodding his head. Davey, I'm expecting a hard question from you, by the way.
I'm working on it.
Okay, start working on that, because I don't want to be heartbroken. Okay, so, I said I wouldn't move. Now I know what pastors go through. Okay, so a couple attributes of a good PR expert. I have a bias against, I'm probably going to get slapped by somebody, but I have a bias against kind of the big PR firms. And I won't name them, but in Washington, where I come from, there's a couple really big PR firms. And what I always would say to my friends is I'd walk into their building and I'd see their big luxurious offices and they're this, they're that, the other thing. And I'd think, man, if I'm a client of these guys, I'm paying for this. Look, an excellent PR person with modern technology, okay, can do this with this, and this, right? And their relationships. Those are some of the fundamentals and great instincts. So, here a lot of the big studios and actors, they go with these big publicity firms in town. That's fine. They want to overpay. That's good by me. But I think what you want to do, particularly for you guys, is find a small boutique agency, particularly with people that are aligned around a passion that is aligned around yours. Because I can tell you this, I have never taken a client ever that I'm not excited about personally. Like I have people every week call me and say, hey, we heard you guys are pretty good, could you do this? And they're people that they show up with money, and common sense would say, you're in business, you should take money when people bring it to you. But I have made a promise to myself and my family that I wasn't gonna take anything that I wasn't passionate about. Why? Because if you're pitching something, which is what good PR firms do, it's really hard work, especially when you're starting out and you're trying to build somebody into a story. Like getting those first couple of stories and getting people mentioned and building that brand, it takes a long time and it takes a lot of work. And if you're not excited about the project that you're working on, just like you guys, I mean, you're not creating things. Has anybody created a channel or something that you're not excited about? And if you did, how long did that last? Right? I mean, the passion comes first and then the finances, right? So you have to find a PR agency that is really genuinely excited about what you're doing. And how do you know that? Because you'll see that they're genuinely excited about what you're doing, right? Like the car thing. That's not my thing. I would never pretend to say to you, oh, I could do that. But I know that there are people out there that they're into what you're into, and they know even that whole world of all those magazines and publications. I keep saying magazines. Throw out the word, just get what I'm getting at. I can't read that, so you'll have to audibly tell me. So anyway, the point is you want to find a PR person that is passionate about what you're doing. And then the other thing is, I believe good PR people are transparent. So if I'm doing something, like I always tell my people, if we're doing a campaign, I want you to go back to the client when it's done, and I want you to show them everybody that we talk to. I want them to see and be involved in, so A, so they can appreciate all the hard work, and B, so that they understand that this is not easy, and C, so they can comment. Because I love getting feedback from people. You know, the best clients I've ever worked with are collaborative, and they're like, hey, have you thought of this? Hey, have you thought of this? And I'm like, oh, no, that's a great idea. We should totally do that. Or have you thought of this story with regard to our product, or that story? That's always a positive sign. So passion for what you're doing. I would stay away from the big guys unless you just don't care about, money's no object, which I'm going to guess is not the common feeling here. Even if money was no object, money should not be no object. And also just you want somebody that will be really transparent with you about what they're doing, so that you have the confidence to know that they're delivering for you. Because sometimes you can pitch 400 people in the beginning of a campaign and not get anywhere. And as the client, you need to know, like, okay, they're really working hard, but it hasn't taken off yet. So anyway, since we have like less than 10 minutes, I need to shut up and get to more questions. Yes, sir.
Two-part question.
Yeah.
Pure web, what are your thoughts on that? Is it a waste of money? So that's one. Part two, my agency does videos for clients. We got a video over 1 million views. We did some PR for it. And I think we made a mistake. We did PR at the beginning with 0 views. It's just a video instead of waiting for the views to actually take place.
Yeah, that's right. Because
what do you do with it?
well, first of all, I guess the first answer is, again, you're right. Like, you don't want to just announce a video when you start, because there's just a few videos that get published every day. And so, in that sense, I think you're right about that. Like, you want to wait. It's kind of like when you look at a resume, people send me resumes all the time, and it says, I worked at this place and I did this. And I always tell them, erase that and replace it with, what did you accomplish? Like, what did you do to make yourself distinctive during your time when you were at that company? And I'd say the same thing about a video. Like, there's kind of a middle ground where maybe you see the video starting to take off. So let me give you the example. Harmon Brothers, okay? Harmon Brothers is so dang good that when Harmon Brothers sneezes, now the media wants to cover it, right? Because they know that Harmon Brothers has such an amazing track record of every single campaign has been successful, that now they're at a point where they get the benefit of the doubt. So it's like they launch a new video, the press is like, okay, we want to know what your new video is because we're assuming it's going to be successful, right? But when you're trying to build that narrative, Harmon Brothers wasn't able to do that in the very beginning, right? They had to wait until they had a couple of hits. And then it's kind of like, you know, from the guys that made Purple and Squatty Potty, now you've got this video, okay, everybody's on board, right? So with your campaign, yeah, you want to get to a point where there's a certain amount of success and then kind of launch out, but also talk about what's really distinctive about your campaign. And again, how does it fit into what's already being written and talked about in the news cycle, right? Because it will literally go through a cycle and you get on the wave and you can ride the wave. If you get on the wave at the wrong time, it goes nowhere. If you miss the wave, you have to wait for the next wave, okay? Waiting for Davey to again have something genius to say. Yes, oh, Davey, okay, yeah.
I mean, my thoughts are, like, the channel we're working on the most right now on YouTube is a family vlog.
Right, that I watch, yeah.
I mean, how does having a PR company, I mean, does that benefit some, like, we're not producing these big epic things for the most part, it's just, you know, it's everyday life, just having a PR company.
Right. So yes, a couple things. What makes your family vlog different than other people's? What's distinctive about you guys? I have a couple of thoughts on that, but we don't have time. And also, like, again, finding audiences in the media that are receptive to your particular message. So just as an example, there's a narrative out there that Hollywood creates a lot of crap, which is an interesting narrative because it's true. Ironically, that one actually works. Hollywood's not creating enough good content for families. Everybody agrees on that, including people in the industry, right? So as an example, you guys are offering something that cuts against what people think, and you're offering something unique, and you're getting a lot of eyeballs on your stuff, which is verification that it's working, right? So then you can even start to build that narrative of, hey, we've got this family channel, and where these guys are dropping the ball, the audience is coming our way, right? So that's an interesting narrative because the Parents Television Council just released a report that said 1% of content on Netflix is family friendly. Is G. I got the wrong word, is G, right? So then you've got a place like VidAngel that then automatically benefits from that, right? Because as a parent, you automatically make the leap of, oh, okay, well, VidAngel can take that 1% of G-rated content and turn it into what, right, effectively, by allowing parents to filter out the bad stuff. So it's looking at that, like, again, those kind of like big narratives that are being talked about in entertainment. And in YouTube particularly, because the narratives around YouTube, there's not a lot of conversation about that, and also the benefit that you have for brands, because you're safe. You're not gonna do something risque. You're not gonna do something that's gonna cause damage to a brand. So the value in getting mentioned for you is that a brand can look and go, oh, look at April and Davey, like, that's great. You know, we can trust their brand to do right by us. That's a safe place for us to advertise. So there's a lot of benefits to that. I guess we have time for like one more question. Yes, sir.
So I'm on the agency side, and just to piggyback off the hot rod brand.
Yeah.
Say he's building a car and he wants to donate it to all the people that were affected by the hurricane down in Houston. So
Ooh, see, that's beautiful.
he's doing something unique. He's
Yes.
creating video content to document that, to put on his social media and build the press. And then he has like some other agency that buys him his first 1 million views, so there's social proof that the video about the car, he's going to donate. You know, it hasn't.
That's perfect.
My question to you is, at what point in the
the second that you're thinking about what you're going to be doing, you should be thinking about, when I read a script, I read a script from the perspective of how is this going to be marketed and pitched to the press. And I will make changes to a script the traditional Hollywood way is make a movie and stand out on the street corner and go, all right, we're going to sell this thing, right? So I'm looking at it at the very beginning of how marketable is this. So to answer your question, when you do that, when you're creating the campaign, you're thinking about how is the press going to cover this, right? Like you have to think about chess. I call it like chess on 5 levels, from Star Trek. You have to think about all the different verticals, like reaching the audience, reaching the press, reaching stakeholders, and you have to, it's being strategic, which again, most people are not strategic. And that's a mistake because you can always change a strategy, but the absence of a strategy means you're just making it up as you go, and that doesn't work. So you do the strategy at the beginning.
Quick follow-up.
Yeah.
Say it's a $100,000 budget for the entire project. How much would you dedicate of that budget to distribution? Because you have to buy an article in Forbes.
Do you remember that great Bill Gates quote? If I had $1 left, I'm going to butcher it, but he said something like, if I had $1 left to spend, I'd spend it on PR. When you are trying to get something off the ground, let the publicity do your heavy lifting for you. I've been parts of campaigns, it's kind of like psychological warfare, where they looked way bigger than they were because of the amount of press coverage that they got. Let the press do your work for you.
All right,
Okay?
give it up for Matthew Faraci.
Thank you, guys.
Good job, good job. Great information. Okay, this room is now going to be closed down until tomorrow morning. However, at 4:55, our keynote in the big room, Sean Duras. So there you go.